Hello, guys. I am so excited to have you today. We have Rachel and Brent. If you guys want to go ahead, tell us about your amazing farm and some of the enterprises that you guys are into.
Okay, so we are Resilient Growers Farm. We chose that name just because we believe in being resilient for the main part, yeah. So we have 10 acres that we purchased last July. We are doing a basically 2-acre vegetable plot, and the rest is 8-acre livestock. And we go to the farmers market. We have a CSA. So a majority, most of our sales are vegetables. We have a little bit on the side with the livestock, but livestock are mostly for fertilization.
I love that. And I love that you guys are so new to this because you just have this way to say, all right, from start to finish, kind of what did you guys come into and do first? Like if someone was just getting started and you guys are starting over, kind of what are the big steps that you really started that garden plot?
Okay, so I had this huge plan on how to start it. I was at the time farming on a 1-acre backyard market garden. And so I was kind of traveling from there to this farm. And this was a blank slate. This didn't have water, electric, it didn't have anything. So I pretty much started with a tarp. But before I got to the tarp, I ran my livestock on it for a little while, and this was in August, so it was pretty hot. There wasn't a lot of growing grass. I had 4 pigs and 3 sheep, and then about 30 chickens, and they were all together on my vegetable plot, the 2-acre section. So we had 4 different sections that I rotated them on. This was only for a period of about a month that I ran them on it. We brought in a ridiculous amount of food bank food that we have a contract with the local food bank. We get about 3 pickup loads of food scraps a week. So that's partially what we were feeding our livestock, and then also grains too. Well, and then also alfalfa. So we were really focused on fertilizing that plot in a really quick manner because I really wanted to get cover crop in the first week of September. And I needed to tarp it 4 weeks in between that time. So it was a very fast step-by-step process. I feel like running the livestock on it was really cool. Since it was so dry, the pigs couldn't really burrow the way I wanted them to. The chickens did great. At least the pigs fertilized. They did do that. And that was kind of my results from that. And we were learning, we used a Premier 1 fence, so we were learning how to use that too in a very small area, so it was a lot easier to figure it out. The electric charger it's very finicky. For anyone who has one, it takes a little bit to learn, especially when it's dry outside and the ground is like a rock.
It's when you learn to like water the grounding rod and all that good stuff, right?
Right. Yeah, so then after we ran the livestock on it, we moved them off into their 8 acres. We tarped it for 4 weeks, and then we tilled it, and that is the last time we tilled it. Then we built our rows. We did have a tractor to use, so we brought in about 50 yards of compost, and that did the first 2,100 feet of rows. And then we ended up bringing in, or we made another 20 yards and finished off. So we finished off with, by this spring, we had 3,800 feet of rows. Yeah, so.
That's no small feat to get all that started, especially when it's not turning.
Yeah.
So after that, you get it tarped and you start implementing a cover crop. Kind of what was your, if you're going from that dry land, kind of what were your next steps to making this like the abundance you grow now? Like obviously there's a lot more than happened in between that.
Yeah. So it started off super dry, and then it was very dry when we tilled it. That's not ideal. There was dust flying up, but I knew I had to get the cover crop in September to get it. I did oats and peas. it turned out great. And this was after we laid the compost down. So we did 3 inches of compost on all of the rows, and got the cover crop established. And we didn't actually plant vegetables in it until that early spring. So we let the cover crop just we let it sit for that period of time. And I think that helped tremendously. That initial first 6 months, if you just start with veggies right away, it's almost like nothing is ready for that to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell me the other tips and tricks. Obviously, you have a huge livestock integration. Like, what are kind of the things that you help to get it from just absolutely like bare soil, not going to grow anything? You know, I'm sure the first couple vegetables were stunted. And what kind of things did you do, closed cycle especially, to really start building up that soil quality?
So we just tilled it that one time. And then since then, we only broad fork. We will add compost when we feel like we need it, but for the most part it is adding like blood meal or alfalfa meal, something that can kind of boost the nitrogen, but we actually have not added compost since last fall.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, we're planning on doing it again here soon, but 70 yards of compost is a lot of labor, so we just need time.
Yeah, honestly, just deep composting, like she said, those a little bit of nitrogen when we feel like we need it, but and we try not to ask too much of the rows too. We don't we will do cover crops, you know, every other cash crop around there.
Yes. And you guys grow so much, right? So do you want to kind of talk a little bit what companions you guys specialize in? Or like, I just feel like you guys are producing so much for such a small amount of acreage.
Yeah, it's we after this drought, we don't feel like that, but but when the season is right, yeah, we feel like it's so kind of what our goal is to grow is always have diversity and always have a balance. And also, while you're trying to do that, have the right produce for marketing too. You have to answer to your customers first and foremost. Like, it's not, if you're going to grow it, it's not going to sell. There's no reason to grow it. So yeah, that's the first part of our plan is what can we grow that is we know for sure is going to sell, that we know we can grow, because this is our first year growing on this plot, so we didn't know what to expect, and we did run into several issues with it rained 7 inches in 1 week, and we had flooding in a small section of the plot we didn't think we would have flooding in, and what do you know, we planted carrots there. So it kind of how our game plan is, if we grow a diversity of crops, we know for sure that not all of them are going to survive. So hopefully a high enough percentage of them will survive that we're going to make it.
we do kind of play a numbers game.
Yes.
But there was a period we started on leased land, and I feel like that was really important starting out, because we were it was our introduction to the market. We started going to market. We kind of figured out the demand and what people were looking for, and we started to gain a customer base, and then only after we'd kind of built up our brand a little bit, we bought land then. So it kind of an easy, kind of a soft landing, if you will.
But we do follow, to grow so much in such a small space. I learned how to farm through learning on other farms, but really I have, Curtis Stone and everybody that has written books on using every square foot possible, I have really taken to heart. So I do a lot of what they have taught. Daniel Mays was huge in his no-till book that I use a lot from that. Just there's so many. JM Fortier, I use some of his stuff. So I've kind of incorporated so many really great books into my farm. But it's, no farm is exactly the same. So you have to kind of take bits and pieces from everybody and make your own.
There's no substitute for knowledge either. We like to say we have no book budget.
Yeah.
She particularly has no book budget, but
Thank goodness you have a spouse that feels that way, right?
Yeah, no. It's the only thing we don't have a budget for.
Well, if you spend $20-$30 on a book, and you can really, if you get one thing from it that's really valuable that you put into practice, it's completely worth it.
Mhm.
And sometimes you buy a book and you walk away with nothing, and sometimes it's just full of information. And some of the farm courses are a little bit hard to justify in that regard. They're a little pricier. Rose Creek, his farm course, very affordable, lots of great information in there, and
Yeah.
I couldn't recommend it highly enough. So yeah, lots of books. We
Instagram
consume
too.
Instagram.
I've learned an insane amount of information on Instagram. Yeah, especially from your page too.
Well, it's because you guys are there. Any other books you want to add to that list? Like, I feel like you guys have just like, there's so many good titles. Any other ones that kind of come to mind before we move on to other stuff?
What other ones? I have an entire bookshelf. The Rodale Book of Composting is amazing.
That's like book number 1.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah.
I knew I meant to have a list of books because I
the bio-integrated farm.
Yes.
That's a great one.
Yes.
Yeah.
By Shawn Jadrnicek. That one's great. And then you kind of get into the livestock grazing. That's a whole other group of books, but
that's a whole other kettle of fish.
Yeah.
I love it. So tell me a little bit about closed cycle, because obviously like inputs are a big deal and all that stuff. Tell me what kind of steps you guys have really embraced the closed cycle loop with your livestock integration, especially to benefit the garden.
Okay, that's been my biggest thing here is not, and it's crazy how everything has worked out, like the pandemic and then the lack of fertilizer, exporting and importing, and it's crazy how it's all speeding up really quick. But the whole goal is to be resilient in that we can afford to live kind of separated from having to bring in a lot of resources, and doing that with biology for the most part. So we try to use what would normally be considered waste, like the food bank scraps. This is basically good produce. My pigs and chickens get a higher diversity of vegetables and fruits than I do every week. It's crazy. Like my truck is full of every kind of fruit and vegetable you can think of every week. Just last Thursday, I got 900 pounds of peaches. I mean, things that
wow.
It's amazing how much waste there is that we don't even think about. I mean, this is just one food bank, and there are more food banks in the city that I'm not even reaching. And we get coffee grounds from 3 coffee shops, and so part of my biggest plan with the closed loop is to incorporate livestock into the vegetable, very similar to, well, here's another book, Gabe Brown, Dirt to Soil. My first book that I read was Kiss the Ground by Josh Tickell. That really brought it all together for me and sent me on this whole adventure. But he talked about Gabe Brown in that book, and Gabe Brown has been able to fully integrate everything on his farm, and he's seen amazing results over 30 years. So it seems like it works really well to me. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do on a smaller scale, on a 10-acre scale, where I have 50 100-foot beds, and then we'll build another 50 100-foot beds, and we will give 50 of those rows a break every year. And at the beginning of that year, we'll graze our sheep on it and our chickens and ducks, and then we'll have cover crop on it. And so that's what will happen on that whole section for the whole year. And then we'll switch it every year to re-fertilize and let the chickens go through the pests and just kind of like revive those rows and give them a break. Without having to bring in a ton of fertilizer. You can never completely take out inputs, but that's just part of, like the chicken feed. In my mind, that's my input. And we have a worm bin too, we added 100 gallons of worm castings to our rows last year from our worm castings. So just the idea is to keep it in a cycle on the farm, just a fully integrated, everything relies on each other. The trees around the vegetable plot are critical to the health of the vegetable plot. We have a pond now. The pond is critical to the biology around the vegetable plot and the forest section and the pasture. We set aside part of our pasture because it had so many native pollinators on it. I couldn't possibly graze it. It was like milkweed, yarrow, lupine, so many different things throughout the year that we just decided we're just going to let it sit, and that's going to be our pollinator habitat. So we look at each section of the farm as a critical part to the vegetable plot, and the vegetable plot's what's making our money. So that we take that the most seriously, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely the ecology matters, and thankfully we have a lot of space around us. There's a 20,000 acre ranch just behind us, so there's a lot of land that is left alone. We think that is really helping us. We try to leave as much land on our property alone, except where we're growing, where we absolutely have to be. Yeah, and we're just propping up the ecology, feeding the soil food web. You were saying a farm can never be truly closed loop because you always have an output, but it's trying to balance that equation as much as possible, and you can find that in your community. Like with you can interrupt a waste stream, find some organic waste that would be going to the landfill, which is a shame, but interrupt that, take it, repurpose it, make your own compost, and feed it into your farm and balance the equation. So that's what we try to do. It's a lot of work to make compost. It is so much work to make compost, but
and all that food, you just get such a small pile.
Oh yeah, breaks down.
Yeah.
Well, the stress, right, from knowing how much it took to grow that food, like personally, and understanding like the math, and then you're like, okay, here's my little handful of gold at the end of it. It took me, however long. So what's kind of your tips to people on composting? Like, what are kind of some of the major screw ups or things like that you wish you had done differently, and the gold at the end of it that makes it so good?
Okay.
We really try to keep it as simple as possible. Just balancing, trying to balance the carbon and nitrogen in the inputs, which if you have a diversity of inputs, it's not super straightforward, but you take your best crack at it and you do what you can. I mean, if you're bringing in all manure, you kind of know, you can be more scientific about how many wood chips you add or whatever, but for us, we just do our best with trying to balance our ratios, and we just do windrows. And make verify, check that they heat up and they get to temperature. National organic practices, they say it has to be mixed and managed, so that everything reaches temperature. So we just do that. We flip it with a tractor bucket, and it's pretty stupid simple. The hardest part is just collecting.
We do run our layers on it for a period of time.
We have been lately,
and then we let it cure for at least 6 months. So the pile that they're on now we won't use till next fall, but that's just part of how we add the nitrogen. Is kind of our thoughts.
They really help break it down too.
Yeah.
They'll take a windrow and just flatten it.
In just a couple of days.
Yeah.
You have the beautiful mounds and piles, and then chickens come, and then it's all gone,
Yeah.
right?
Where'd my compost go?
Yeah. What's your time frame on the chicken manure integration? So obviously, like, their poop is much hotter. Do you guys give it that full length of time? Do you find the integration in compost helps? What's your time frame on that?
I think so far I have not used my compost piles that the chickens have been on yet. I really want to wait a year if I can to really let it sit. I think the rules are 6 months at least, right? 180 days.
For
Am I-
90 and 120.
Oh,
For,
there, okay,
yeah,
there
so
you go.
90 days for crops that don't touch the ground, like tomatoes, and 120 days for, root crops or something that's on the ground.
So you guys are giving it like a couple like extra months and really let it sit.
Yeah, it just seems like in the mulch, the wood chips that we get from the city, they take quite a while to break down. And if we've found, especially brassicas, if you're too woody, your compost is too woody, they can struggle a bit. We've seen it a few times, and we think
We've been a little overly ambitious with some of the compost that's been a little woody and hasn't broken down yet. And the tribal knowledge, right, is that nitrogen is being tied up by the carbon breaking down. And we've seen that firsthand, unfortunately.
And the ratio between mycorrhizal and bacteria can be a little bit higher. Mycorrhizal higher than bacteria with brassicas. I've heard that. That can kind of mess them up a little bit, but we've had some seriously stunted broccolis and we learned our lesson. So I'd be fine with just letting it sit for longer just to make sure that breaks down.
And that's in farming, you don't want to make any decisions. You don't want any decisions to be made for you. Right. And that's something we've really struggled with, particularly when we were both trying, we were all in, we were both doing it full time. We did a lot of things maybe we shouldn't have done because we felt like we had to, because we had no other choice and we needed to do it. And it was our livelihood, it was our income. And that can force you into some things that if you had options, you might not have made that decision.
Yeah. So now we can purchase compost before our compost is ready, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, we use compost we probably shouldn't have because we screwed up making it. We didn't get our ratios really right, and we at the time we couldn't afford compost, so we said this is it. Which sometimes you have to compromise or make concessions. We knew that we might have some nitrogen issues. We tried adding blood meal and planting. We tried to keep the brassicas away from it as well. So we tried to compensate, and it somewhat worked.
It was in the onions, and I had a lot of comments about these are cute baby onions.
Yeah. we had a restaurant buy them, and they were yellow Grand X onions. We had a restaurant buy them, and they called them shallots.
Yeah.
I love it. Kind of any other things that we're, learning mistakes. So obviously, like time, we're like, okay, compost is a time thing and over plan for time. Any other things that have been hopefully less painful to learn for the brassicas?
Oh yeah. Just like, are you just asking for any other mistakes we've made?
I feel like gardening is like the sea of mistakes, right? Like every plant has its own pickle and it doesn't want to sit beside its friends. So kind of like high level, obviously, because we could be here all day on different types, but just, so compost setting time, like that really needs to be extended. Any other things that have really kind of been things you've headbutted against or really found that were like keys to moving forward and scaling?
We try to scale. We always say stay at a scale that you're comfortable with and you can manage, which I mean we say that and we still end up working, you know, until dark. But the first years are kind of hard. But we also always say, you know, if there's a tool that you can really justify,
Yeah.
buy the tool. Don't think about it.
We never regret
Get it. The quick cut greens harvester. I don't know why we waited to buy that tool.
I used a shrub trimmer. For
Yeah.
9 months.
It's so worth it. And these things can seem like a lot at first, but figure out a way to get it. And there's a lot of these things have considerable payoff. Get your, you know, we waited way too long to get really good propagation. So getting a nice refined propagation system that you don't have to babysit very much, and getting really healthy plant starts. That was another lesson that we had to learn, because we kind of bootstrap stuff together and made do initially, but you cost yourself so much time doing that that it's so hard to be successful if you don't set yourself up for success.
And money. I mean, each plant you kill, it's hard to add up at that point in time, but it really does. You end up costing yourself more money than you would have spent in the beginning just by getting the right system. And it took us so long to really figure that out. And another one is the irrigation system. We took this irrigation system we had and Frankensteined it together here. And I wish we would have just spent a whole lot of time on it, getting it exactly where it needs to be, because that was the reason why so much money was lost. So that is something I wish that we would have done. Instead of expanding, get your current plot perfect. And I've said this for years and still I don't do it. But get the current plot perfect, and to where you don't need to babysit it. You don't need to hand water anything, or or fencing. If you know there's deer around, get a fence around it before you expand. or if your livestock get out, get a fence around it.
You guys play Russian roulette with that by having the pigs and sheep too. I feel like one bad fence day is going to be the end of a whole lot.
It's so stressful. It is so stressful.
Yeah.
That's the thing with, you know, incorporating animals is it's a world of stress and worry. And you know, the Premier One fence has worked, and it has not worked too. So I feel like right now our animals just completely disrespect it.
Oh yeah. Once they get out the first time, it's over. Like that's it.
I actually just had that conversation with somebody else. It's like, never let them get out the first time, because then it's all downhill after that. And you're like, okay, let me just figure it out perfectly the first time. But
I'm wondering if I should just start out fresh with new livestock. Honestly, I thought of that.
I think a lot of people have been there. So tell me a little bit about, so you go to the farmer's market, you're surrounded by other growers who I'm sure there's a lot of very conventional. I would love to kind of hear what parts that are really important to you guys that other people kind of maybe say you're crazy for doing it this way, and like kind of what are the juxtapositions in that space.
The first thing that comes to mind is all the pest pressure we had this year. We just had to let a lot of things die, like at least 400 feet of squash, because the squash bugs were so bad because of the heat and the drought. And you know, people would ask us like, do you spray anything? Is there anything you can do? And sometimes you just can't. I feel like, yeah, you can do insect netting, but there's that whole other side of insect netting that is cumbersome and labor intensive. But that's the first thing that comes to mind, is the fact that we don't spray, and that we do like surrender to a certain point, and just go ahead and take it as a loss. And while the other conventional growers have just crazy amounts of squash on their table, it's just something, we deal with.
We grow successions. We You know, and when it's time to give up on a crop, it's you have to. That's something we've learned really well in the past year, is coping with loss. And it's a practice in stoicism, really. You have to learn to accept it and learn and move on. But really, like you were talking about the squash, you know, get a couple harvests off it and then just surrender it to the squash bugs, you know, and you know, wipe out the row and haul it to the chickens and let them get after it. Whereas other people, you know, who are spraying pesticides and different things, they can have squash off the same plants, you know, for longer. You know, you give up that, but we're very open and honest about our practices. We try to share a lot on social media. If anyone wants to talk growing with us at the table, we talk about it. So having that trusting relationship with our customer is worth more than losing some squash plants. And that's, we feel like we've earned a lot of people's respect just by, like I said, being open, sharing everything, and being present. And
we get the same customers every weekend that have never questioned us. They don't request that we get organic certified. They just know that we're here to do the right thing, that we're doing the environmental thing. That's what we started it for. And we want our table to be filled with beautiful produce. We're fine with some holes in it, and I think our customers are too. But I think that what sets us apart from everybody else is that since we're bio-intensive, and it shows in the color of the produce and the flavor. So whatever we put on our table, I feel like people are still excited about. It doesn't really matter what we bring, as long as we're able to bring something. So
I love that you guys kind of segued so perfectly into the customer connection. Like, so what you're doing obviously has a huge loss rate, of course, because it's real, it's not chemically dependent and all this stuff. So tell me about the customer journey, like, you know, from where you started, how you developed those relationships. And I'd love to kind of know, like, what words you're using, because you can't just come out and you're like, we're a biodynamic regenerative farm and that's why we're better. Those words don't mean anything to people. Kind of what journey did you take your customers on to get to such an amazing place?
Go for it.
So,
yeah, I don't know.
So when we first started the farm, we had no brand, and I had grown all this produce and nowhere to sell it. I was like, oh my gosh, it was terrifying. I had nowhere. Nobody was coming to buy it. I wasn't getting any CSA customers. And so it really is critical to get your brand. And so how we built that, I think it started when we went to the market, and it really was just how we presented the produce on the table. For the most part, we brought really vibrant, healthy looking produce, which says a lot without even having to say anything. And then you have conversations with the customer. If they do ask, what are your practices? I'm completely straightforward. I say, you know, we try to be closed loop. We're making our own compost. We don't spray pesticides and herbicides, and any kind of protection is going to be mechanical. And I think that pretty much gives them what they need to know after seeing the produce too. And once they take it home and they taste it, then that's another thing too. And how long it lasts in their fridge. I feel like a lot of our customers come get our mixed greens because they say it lasts really long in the fridge. And so they know that it's healthier. So I think that's been the main reason why we get repeat customers. It's really cool. We get to see the same people every weekend, and I've seen kids grow up over the past couple of years. Go through like the carriage to, you know, walking with a little flower in their hand. It's been really cool. So we develop each time we see them, we develop more and more connections and conversations. So they really want to know who we are and what we stand for and what it's like. Really, they are so what's so cool is that even during like hail and rain, these customers show up, and that's been part of what is important to us too, is we show up at market. If we don't have any produce, that's one thing, then we can't come to market, but we take it very seriously to go to market every single weekend that it's open, and our customers know that too, that they can depend on us for consistency is a big deal.
Yeah, we're engaging. We we'll engage our customers. We talk about our practices. A lot of people want to know what seeds we're growing, and we'll tell them that too. We definitely we have a no sitting rule so we don't take shares to market. We're there. We're there to engage people and to sell vegetables. So we're very serious about that. And yeah, and we are very lucky. We didn't do a lot of market research before we got into this. We just sort of dove in, and we definitely could have, but we lucked into, we have a really great market with a great community behind it that is really passionate about buying local. And we came in at just the right time.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something we could have done a lot better, but we definitely lucked into. But going to the farmer's market, knowing who else is there, because you definitely want to be unique at the farmer's market. I think Curtis Stone mentioned something about that one time is if you go into a market, into a saturated market, you're probably going to struggle as a first year grower, and you might not make it to a second year grower. So kind of having that edge of being unique in your market, which there was a fantastic local farm that just so happened to go to a CSA only, right? So they quit the farmers market right as we came in. So we were able to fill that void. We were incredibly lucky. We had a lot of their customers that were looking for someone else to replace that in their weekly grocery allotment. So and we filled right in. We did our best. We're still doing our best. We try to have a full table every Saturday. We harvest on Fridays exclusively, so it's always next day fresh, and I think that really shows as well.
And we take recommendations too. Like if a customer is looking for something, we usually take note of it and we'll grow it the next season, or try to. There's been a couple that, like French sorrel. I had a customer that said, "You need to grow this. It's really cool." And I did it this spring, and it turned out to be very lucrative, and everyone got excited about it, and nobody else had it. So
it grows like a weed.
Yeah.
We tried to kill it. We couldn't. We tried to terminate it like twice, and it just kept growing back. But every time it would grow back, and it was vibrant and healthy, and it tasted great.
And toddlers like it.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a toddler just sitting there eating it out of the bag at our table. Yeah, it's great.
If only cash crops grew in like that all the time, right?
I know. Yeah.
So that's kind of my last question to you is, that's a gray area, right? Like you can grow all these like amazing, exotic, very cool plants. And is it just customer recommendations that you pick those up? How do you kind of make those choices between traditional, conventional, and some of the kind of neater things out there that are a little bit of a wild card?
Yeah.
Well, we definitely, every year we kind of tailor the list a little bit, and it's going to be unique to everyone. And if you're a new grower and you're starting out, you really just want to go and pay attention to, you know, what's at the market and kind of take note of what's out there. But this year we really, initially our first year, we grew everything, right? All the exotic stuff and everything that looked interesting, and we just threw the kitchen sink at it. And then this year we really tried to narrow it down, look at the value of each crop, look at the value per square foot. And we also made a rule that for every, what was it, four? For every four consistent crops that we knew would be, that we were confident of their success and we knew they were going to be valuable, we would try something, right? So setting those rules for yourself, or else you can get really carried away with, ooh, this squash looks fun, and I'm gonna try this and that, and pretty much like your entire seed budget is spent on, you know, things that may or may not contribute to your success. So but you want to try those things, because there might be gold there. You might strike gold with something, and it really connects with your customer base, and everyone loves it, and it grows really well in your soil, and you just never know. So you want to try new things, but you need a consistent foundation to build off of. So that's kind of our current rule, is we have our consistency, and then we have our wild cards that we throw in there.
Balance. Yeah,
it's all about balance.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, there are so many people that are coming into this space. What would be your words of wisdom to people who have either done this as a hobby and are thinking of growing, or people who are new to this? Like, what are your words of wisdom?
It's really hard, and you're gonna want to give up many times, but don't, because there are people doing it successfully out there, and so can you. I have to tell myself that a lot.
I would say it's really hard to do alone. It's really hard for one person. You have to be a special kind of person to be able to do this alone. You need a skill set that is so varied, that includes so many things. You need, multiple personality types. You'd have to be a freaking schizophrenic to possess everything it takes to really do this. So I would say you probably you have the highest chance of success if you are partnering with someone, if it's a joint venture, and really try to find someone that complements you in a lot of ways, in your knowledge base, in your personality type, and what you like to work on, how you like to work, all those things.
There's a partnership podcast, right? On partnerships. It's connected to the no-till, I think, but there's many farms out there who have partnered and made it work. So you don't necessarily have to start your farm from the ground up. You can, like Brent said, join in with someone, and it makes it a lot easier.
It's
definitely,
honestly, I have a lot of respect for anyone who enters into this alone. We all know it's an immense amount of work. It can be kind of lonely if you're doing it alone. And like I said, the skill set required, you have to have some mechanical knowledge. You have to be able to plan. You have to be able to do really physical things. You have to be good with Excel. Being somewhat computer savvy helps a lot. You have to have marketing. You have to be able to market yourself and do the whole business side of things. So it's a lot for one person. So yeah, and if you are that person that's going to try to do it alone, just read a lot. just consume as much as you can. Yeah, read all of Curtis Stone's books. Probably is a good place to start if you want to be
Start small.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. Well, we will just drop a list of books in the comments section so everybody can just start down the very long, very good reading list you guys have for them. Everybody go follow them on social media, on their website. They are always doing cool new stuff. And I appreciate you guys sharing so much. It's such a wealth of information.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.